Okay, new week. Last week we finished up with our ledge, all ready for the refractory brick to be put in place. So what we need to do now is take our straight edge, a good old Sharpie. I'm just going to mark the edge of how far the refractory brick can fit in there. And then we're just going to take this straight edge. We need three measurements. One is right in the middle, which is about, it's going to come in at 2 3/4 inches. And then on either side here, we're going to end up at about 1.5 inches. Okay, so we're going to be taking our refractory brick and already lined it up in the middle. So centered the brick, 2 3/4 inches, and then about 1 inch and a bit, 1.5 inches or so on either side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a series of measurements along this arc that we need, connect the dots, and we'll have our curvature. Once we have that, then we'll be using our masonry disc outside and our angle grinder, and we'll cut this piece out, rough it into shape. Then we're going to have to figure out the angle that we have so that we can match the curvature on the inside of our door. And we'll sand all that off on the big belt sander. Everything we do here, we're going to end up having to duplicate at the other end. It'll be a little simpler because we don't have the hinge to worry about. But that should keep us busy for the week. Hopefully, we'll have at least one end all framed up by the end of the week and get the rest in place. So, let's get to her. So we've drawn the lines out on our piece of refractory brick. What we're going to be doing is using a concrete disc. This is for cutting concrete and for cutting bricks. So I'm going to be doing straight cuts, taking that line out, taking that line out, and I'll probably end up cutting just that chunk off. So we've roughed in our curvature, and then from there we'll take it in and we'll use our big grinder sander and we'll sand that down to the round, and then we'll go to the next step, which will be tapering it. So remember to wear your safety gear. I know that doesn't look very safe right now. I'm gonna have to stitch this all up. So there's going to be a bit of noise here, so I'll try to talk over it and get to the other end. Again, I'm not forcing my blade, just letting it cut at its own speed. It gets through here pretty quick. Should be pretty close. Yeah, just a little bit on here. There it goes. Knock that off. Take this little bit of a tip off. And now we've got that roughed in. So what I'm going to do now is I'll sand that off. And I'll take it to the next step, and I'll probably just use the sander to sand that taper that we need. Okay. Back inside to the sander. Pretty pleased with that. Let me just get the fans and the dust collector off and remove some of this safety gear. Using the N95 for what I always intended them for. My own secret hoard hidden away in the shop where no one could find it. Under lock and key it was. Okay. So that brick went in really well. Fits nicely, comes out easily if I need to change it. But it's on there nice and secure. It's not going to fall off, land on my toes. Everything lines up rather nicely. Closes sweetly. I have a little bit of grinding to do on the door here. It's not quite square. And I'm going to want that square because this rest that I'm going to be putting on here, I want that rest surface, the steel, when it comes up here to be pretty much flush with the surface of my brick. So that will cover that end. I'll have this all framed in. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my door off and I'm going to use it as a template to set my door on the other side. Duplicate everything I've pretty much done on this end down on that end. Now, I don't have the complexity of a hinged door on that end, but I am going to be working in fairly deep, so I do need to get this opening cut. So that's what I'm going to be working on right now. So, as I like to say, on to the next. So, if you haven't done it yet, and you're eligible, I want to strongly encourage you, get out there, get your COVID vaccination, get it done. The sooner we all get vaccinated, the sooner we can all get back to doing the things we feel passionate about and enjoy. So, it's cost me a day, basically 24 hours of side effects. No big deal. I'm still a little achy in the shoulder, but I'm back at it now. Still got a couple of days to get this to where I want it to be at the end of this week. Still don't feel very close to getting the insulation in, and I know I said that way back, I think in episode 1 of this series, but we are where we are. So, without further ado, let's get back to her. See you on the other side. Drawn out the opening that we want on this end of the casing. We're going to be using this rotary air tool with the cutoff disc to chop out this inner rectangle first. We're going to do that before we cut out the final size, just to make sure that everything is nice and square. So we're going to switch over to doing this on a time lapse because this is going to take a minute, and we'll see you on the other side. Zip disc and air tool made real quick work of that opening. Cutting that out, getting it all ready to go. So now what I got to do is take it inside, deburr these edges, do a little bit of reassembly work, make sure that everything is nice and square before we finish this cut off completely. Now what I'll do is I'll take my zip disc again and I'll just chop out this last section once I'm happy with the size of that opening. But for now, I can get in there, I can get some measurements, figure out where that next brick is going to be, that last brick is going to be, and get that last rest put in on the end. Okay, let's get back inside. So, even with losing a day, managed to make up some ground. Let me get the fans off here. A little less background noise. So, we've managed to get our openings cut on both ends. Managed to get our refractory brick fitted onto the other end here. It's nice and solid, nice and square and flush. Everything opens up and moves pretty smoothly. So we're pretty happy with that. So that's where we're sitting now. Now the next thing we've got to do, I'm going to clean up my openings on both ends. This end, I want to take this opening all the way out to its final size. I'm going to cut it down so that it's about 1/4 of an inch lower than the surface of my refractory brick, and that way when I want to be able to weld my piece of rest here right up onto it, so that when I got it all cleaned up and filed and ground, that it fits nice and flush and smooth up against my brick. And I want that on both ends. So that's where we're sitting now. We're in a bit of a race to get to the end of the week. So next phase, clean up, framing. On to the next. So here's where we're sitting. We've refined the openings on the casing and on our door. Squared everything up nice and neat. Now what we've got to do is we're going to be taking this rather substantial piece of steel and cutting out our rests for both ends. So we're going to be cutting this to match the width of our door. Then we're going to mark it, grind it out so it matches the curvature, and then we'll be welding the two pieces into place. Once we have that done, I'm going to be taking a 1-inch piece, 1-inch wide piece, and I'm going to be creating the rest of the frame on both ends. So that's where we're sitting, and With any luck, we'll get her done by the end of the day. Sidebars of the frame for the door. They're going to come in at about 3 1/8 inches. I'm just going to give it a little bit of space because of the thickness of my grinder blade. We're going to go outside here in a second and do these. I'm just going to use the angle grinder to cut them off, and we'll sand them down if we need to. Okay. Out to the angle grinder. All the time we have for this week. So if you're enjoying our little forge build, remember, hit that thumbs up. Don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. So until next week, stay safe, my friends, and we'll see you on the other side.